Okay, now that we got that stitched up, it's time to start doing something about that edge. I got myself a sanding block here. It's just a plastic sanding block with a hunk of 150 on it. There's a little bit of variation in this edge, and I really don't want to take it out and use a machine on it because it's very easy to take off more leather than you really want to. So I'm just using a sanding block. Not going to take much. Just a bit here and there. You feel it with your thumb, and you can tell where it's a bit uneven. Like right there, just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this for a little bit. And when we come back, we'll go ahead and bevel this. Okay, that feels pretty good right there. So now, we're going to take our edge beveler and bevel these edges. But I like to keep my tools sharp. So I got my strop here. Just draw it back, tilt it a little bit, push it forward. And that'll keep it so it can move through the leather easier. That should do it. And just bevel these edges. Yeah, that's good. Make sure it's good, smooth, and even. Continue around the end. And up the other side. That's the thing, when you got a wide edge, it's best to take a little extra care on it, because that is a very noticeable edge because it's so wide, and it really pays to take that extra care and make it pretty. Cut this off here too. And next up, we're going to touch these edges up with a little bit of dye and then let that dry. And we'll come back when it's time to start burnishing. Yeah, I'm going to look at it and pick at it and make sure it looks good. There's a bit of leather sticking out right there that's not dyed. I'm going to touch that up too. We'll see y'all when that dye is dry. Actually, the way I'm going to dye it, I'm just going to use a little bit of dye, put it on a dauber, and spread it across the edge. That's all. So, we'll come back when that dye is dry, and we'll go ahead and start burnishing on this thing. Okay, I got some dye on the edge. Put the dye on it after I smoothed it. Now it's time to do some burnishing. First, just take a damp sponge and wet the edge. And if this comes out right, it's going to look so good. Actually, there's no reason for it not to. And just take the burnisher to it. And yeah, this is tougher leather, so it's going to take a bit more than usual. I'm kind of mashing it in as I'm rubbing it. And you can see already how it's taking a shine. Let's get some light over here. There you go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue and do the whole edge. And when we come back, we'll see how it looks. Okay, we got a water burnish on that. That's what I call it anyway, because it's burnished with just water. And that looks pretty good, but it's not going to stay that way. I know this. So what you need to do is to use something like this. I use gum tragacanth. And that helps to keep the burnished edge looking pretty. Some people, they just burnish with gum tragacanth. Oh, let me shake this up first. I do a water burnish, and then I burnish again with the gum trag. And I think it looks good that way. It gives me a nicer edge. It's a little more work, yeah, but you know, it's worth it. Just spread a little bit of gum trag along the edge. You don't need great gobs of it. Just a thin layer. And keeping it mostly even. And there again with the gum trag, that won't last too long either. After you finish your edges with the gum trag, you need to put something on them. And I use whatever top coat that I put on the rest of the leather product, which is almost always tan coat. So you put your gum trag on there, give it a little bit of time to absorb in a little bit and to dry a little bit. I just personally find that it's easier to work with that way. This is the exciting part of the video where we sit here and watch gum trag dry. And that looks about good.
I'm asleep already.
And then you just burnish that. And that will give you a very nice edge that'll last at least long enough for you to get some top coat on it. Yeah, it's starting to come back. You can usually tell when it starts squeaking. And you can see where it's starting to get that shine. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of it. And once again, we'll be back. Okay, that's our finished edge. Well, finished for now. Next up, I'm going to let that dry for a little while. And then I'm going to wet this whole thing and mold that belt loop a little bit. See the way it kind of flattens out? I want it to come out a little bit rounder. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to mold that belt loop, wet the whole thing, leave it sit overnight, and then we get to my favorite part, and that's top coating this thing. I always like the way it looks. I always like to see how it turns out as I'm buffing out the top coat. And next time we get together, we'll go ahead and take care of that. We'll see you then.